Anya, your host of ZionistAF. Only in Israel am I like, listen, can we check the Wi-Fi? I love you guys. The most tech-savvy country in the world, but like, for the love of God, why can't the Wi-Fi just work here? I don't know. So I'm like, a whole thing. But thank you to Brown Hotels, even though we're battling with the Wi-Fi, we are here. We're here with Noah, and we had started recording, and I thought everything was fine. Aval, no. Aval is my favorite word in Hebrew.
Really?
But there's a quick second coming up, like pretty hardcore, and it's barul. Even though some of my Israeli friends are now laughing at me, and I don't care because I think I say it just fine.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I think you do.
I mean, obviously it's such a fun thing to say.
Yeah.
And then aval is just really fun because you're like, what are you gonna say next? Instead of just the word but, it's just not as like dramatic.
Yeah. That's
And
what I was gonna say.
you guys as a people are very dramatic.
Correct.
They're heated.
Yeah.
You're heated because you're so warm. It's because all of the hearts run so warm.
Yeah,
and
we're passionate.
I know. I mean, look, before Noah and I were talking, I already have invited myself, and I didn't wait for the invitation because that wouldn't be Israeli. I invited myself to her family home. Her mom is probably already making kube for me because she heard I was coming. Correct. Or I might just stop by.
Yeah.
But that's the best thing ever. Like, you could just, any person's house, or even like someone who was a stranger is like now your friend. And even here at the hotel, like I go down and I eat breakfast, and then sometimes I pop in to like just say hi to everybody, or I'm working down there because it's, I have to just whatever. And he's, did you eat? Are you hungry? I'm like, you saw me eat 1 hour ago. Stop trying to, I can't fit in my clothes.
I love that.
Yes, there's this idea of community.
Yes.
And I kind of want to talk about that as you introduce yourself. So please introduce yourself. And then I know that you're going to talk about where you're from. And I think after you introduce yourself, we'll kind of pause and explain that a little bit to everybody, because again, we don't assume that people don't know, but I think the only way for us to better understand one another is to really like put it out there.
Yeah, I agree.
So Noah, please introduce yourself.
Right. So hi, my name is Noah. Thank you for having me here today. And I come from a very small Moshav, which is like a small village,
small town where many generations of a family tend to stay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it's not like so much of a sharing community like a kibbutz. Not like that. Usually in the suburbs, specifically my Moshav is in the periphery area of Israel, which is by the Gaza envelope. Counts as the periphery of Israel. And I think the biggest city we have next to us is Sderot. So that's where I would go grocery shopping, is in Sderot.
Okay.
But it is the most beautiful place in Israel, in my opinion. And as funny as it sounds, it's also the most quiet and calm when it is calm.
Yes. So now you use words like Gaza envelope, periphery, and I just want to remind everyone that before 2005, Gaza was Israel. Israel gave up more land because, even though this has never been about existing peacefully, we keep hoping. We're like the hopeless romantic. Yeah. That we're like, maybe if I just given more to my partner, which you can't have a partner who's a monster. But if I just give up more and given more, then maybe they'll just act nicely.
But you only learn it the hard way.
How many times do we have to run into a wall? I mean, seriously. But so that area, again, and this is not your opinion, my opinion. If you go and you look at satellite pictures from 2005 and before, you will see what Gaza looked like when it was still part of Israel territory officially. It literally looked like Tel Aviv. Not like the big city part, but the beach line and the resort type stuff. And it was like, again, just a beautiful, by the way, the sea that it is on, for, just in case, from the river to the sea.
Love that.
But my favorite, and you'll have to tell me if you get any of this when you go to the US, but you can't make this stuff up. They asked with one woman, she's screaming, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and they all sound like that. By the way, I just want you to know. Also, if it doesn't rhyme, they can't repeat it because Dr. Seuss, who made children's books, they all rhyme for a reason, Noah. Because even stupid people can rhyme. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, little kids think it's rhyme time. Okay, well, why? Because you can repeat something if it rhymes. I'm sorry that your head is so empty that that's what you need, but you know what? That's your problem, not mine. It's like, well, what river? It's like a river. What? It's like a river. Okay, fine. Let's move on. Let's just maybe 50% will be what sea? You can't make this up. The sea. It's like an ocean.
Oh wow.
The sea is like an ocean.
Oh wow.
Do you mean like that they're two bodies of water? I'm just wondering. Wow. I mean, I'm just not clear on how to move forward from there because it's just kind of like, yeah, okay. Like there's just really, there's no advancement to that. There's no helping you, sweetie.
It's so embarrassing.
Hello. I mean, Bueller, anyone home? Yeah. No, clearly not. But the sea is what that is on. Now, your great little Moshav in your small area. Now, has your family been there a long time?
Yeah, so my grandparents are actually founders of the Moshav. After being Holocaust survivors and coming back from Auschwitz, my grandpa came to the Moshav and settled there. And family runs in the family. We've all stayed there. My family, aunts and uncles, we're all there. We've all stayed there.
Hey guys, I'm coming. So I'm just saying, I know that Noah's mom's making food, but listen, I'm open to meeting all of you and eating at all of your homes.
All make great food. And when we
I'm sure. All the family? Awesome. I'm coming. Let's do it. And I did go to a friend's Moshav, and it was funny because they all came over to say hello to the American friend. And then on Shabbat, I visited the grandma who, she's older and doesn't quite so much leave her house, even though it was really just kind of it was down the road so we could walk. And it was just, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Exactly. It's no, I'm drinking water right now. Are you sure you're not thirsty?
That's the first question you get when you enter an Israeli's home is are you hungry or do you want food? And even if you say
what
no,
can I get you?
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, all of a sudden. So I just want you guys to know that I'm not in a house with a kitchen and everything, but I at least put out some fruit, And of course, when you have this caliber of person, you have to take it up a notch and making champagne.
So a funny thing is last night I had a flat tire in the middle of the night.
How many people stopped?
Right. So many. And when I finally found a place to go and get it fixed, the guy came especially for me and opened his garage just to get it fixed. Yeah. And the first thing he asked me is, "Can I get you cookies and a drink?"
Yeah. And this must have been tough on you to be stranded in the road. How can I make this better?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the first initial thing. Yesterday also, I was walking down the street. A guy just opened his window from his house and said, "Hey, it's hot outside. Have water here." And gave me a bottle of water. What country did this happen in?
Now, if some of you are saying, well, look at her, she's gorgeous. That is barol, okay? Obviously, Anya's second favorite word. But that's not why.
Yeah, that's not why.
You could be a child, an older person, a man, a woman, does not matter. That is what someone says, it's hot. Are you drinking enough water? Yes. And that's the question, they always assume that if you're not living here, you don't understand that it's hot outside and you have to drink water. And of course, the last time I was here in March, it was not as hot. And then I ended up with kidney stones and in the hospital and experienced it's fine. It's it's past. I'm over it. Okay. But I got to experience the emergency room in Israel.
Oh, what an experience.
Funniest thing was, are you drinking enough water? Yeah. No, I'm stupid. Yes, I'm drinking enough water.
Yeah. I love when a doctor will ask you that too. That's a question that comes from a doctor too.
But this is my favorite part in so Israel is in the United States, if you go to a hospital in the emergency room, a doctor will come in or a nurse or a PA but it's one, maybe two people at a time. Okay. So I'm in the emergency room after I went on MADA ambulance. So, and I have to tell you, like, wow, wow, wow. I mean, they've been on our program many times. RA, one of their spokespeople, has been on our programs many times because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. But the day before is the day that I delivered the envelope of cash that my son had raised. Wow. And I had said, hey, Arya, when am I getting that ride on the ambulance that, because they told me one day I could ride along.
You didn't expect it like that.
I did not expect to be riding in the back of the ambulance on the stretcher. Wow. Like, I thought, like, on the side. And whatever. No. So I called him that next day. I was like, hey, so remember I said I wanted to ride on the... I'm good. I did it. But
been there, done that.
Yes, they were so sweet. And the driver checked on me like 3 different times when he would bring people back. Nowhere else but in Israel. But very typical Israeli style. So these, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I was in so much pain. I could barely express myself in English, let alone in Hebrew. I just kept screaming things like, go Eb, go Eb. And I would point and I was like, yo, Jeremy, die. And they're like, we speak English. And I was like, oh, that's I know it really hurts. But they all spoke to me at the same time. And I was like, listen, I don't care if you're all speaking in English or Hebrew. We need to take turns. I'm in a lot of pain. I can't distinguish who's talking to me. But I love that about Israel. It's like everyone and it's not, people make this mistake all the time, Noah. I think they think Israelis are rude.
Yeah.
Look, some of you are rude.
One another, and but it's not.
Some of you are rude. And some of you interrupt people and can't wait your turn. And I'm not going to excuse that. It's not okay. But that's not an Israeli thing. That's just some people are just jerks. I'm going to say jerks and not another word. But I do think it's funny because it's like this like everyone's talking and then like it's like people get really excited. And recently my son, he was with me for part of the trip and he watched this and like these 2 people were talking that we were in a group and they just got so excited about the topic that they were talking over each other, but they were leaning into each other. And my son looked at me for a second and he was like, if you only heard the audio, you would think that like almost that they were arguing, but it wasn't. And it's just like, and my dear friend Ora Georgie, who is a rapper here, he's amazing, Georgie. He said it's because it's so hot. I mean, we're all just overheating all the time. I don't know if that's the case, but it's like that fire, that passion.
Yeah, the fire, exactly. The passion. We're so passionate about things, and you just like want to get your words out there. You just want to. You cannot keep it in.
You can't wait. You're like the kid, and you're just like, what? And you just start blurting out like the secret you were supposed to keep or whatever it was. Like you just can't wait.
You just need to get your thought out there. You can't wait for somebody to finish the sentence because you have to. It's a
right. You're like, I'm already with you. I'm on this journey. Yes. We're on the highway. We're in the I don't know what you guys call it here, but like the commuter lane. I think is it a diamond here too? The diamond lane, like where you can go in with 2 or more people or something.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I drove here for 3 days when I drove down to Yamamel and then drove a little bit around here.
That's bold.
It was bold because in Tel Aviv with all the construction, I swear to God, from one week to another, I was like, wait, wasn't the street open a second ago? Yes. And then apparently I was driving in a taxi-only lane, but I'm like, look, I don't speak Hebrew and I have an American driver's license. So, and also, by the way, all of a sudden the construction just went like this. So, okay, then tell me how am I supposed to drive down the street and I will do it, to just tell me. And inevitably someone would, but it's fine. So like, that's the perfect example when you talk about, I got a flat tire because I do think there's this sense of community, this sense of,
100%.
I don't like the word obligation because I feel like sometimes it's a forced thing, but it's not an obligation. It's a commitment.
Yes.
It's a desire to be together. And I do think that part of this is because Israel has mandatory service. Okay. So everyone joins the army, men and women. And by the way, women are badass fighters too in Israel. Like they don't have to jump through all the hoops that they do in other countries. And they can command units of men or men and women or women or whatever. And there's this sense of, we're mishpacha, aval not lo mishpacha, right? And let's be honest, guys, you might love your family, but you don't always like them, and that's okay, right? We're not going to sit here and say, oh, all Israelis get along and always agree. That would be weird, though. I feel like any country had all of a sudden everyone's agreeing. Like, brainwashed much, but but there still is that thing. And the other thing is, it doesn't matter who you are, what religion you are. If you're in Israel and like someone's a flat tire, you're not going to slow your car down and make sure that they're Jewish or make sure that they're Christian or make sure that they're Arab.
Me last night was Arab.
Yeah,
he was Arab, and completely fine.
Just say, yeah. Or some of the people that I've spoken to are Druze, are Arab, are Bedouin, are Christian, and something that they said they really wish to share is, when you're Israeli, you're Israeli. And many of them did choose to serve in the army and did choose to report for Miluim, which is reserve duty. And it's that sense of like, well, of course I would help. Like there's just no question.
There's no question.
And correct. I mean, recently on thank goodness I've not had any issues on this. I had enough on the last one. But I was with a friend and someone was on one of those scooter things, those electric. They scare me.
I hate them.
They scare me so much.
I don't go on them. I call them death machines.
They're a little scary, but like also so are the people on the motorbikes, like not the motorcycles, but like the scooter motorbikes that are like weaving. I mean, there's those people everywhere. It's just, but also like, listen, guys, like the bus drivers were tank drivers, and they also understand now that their vehicle is bigger than your vehicle, so they're gonna keep going. Like, size does matter in that sense. So stop doing that. It's just like But this guy fell off the scooter, and my friend and I were sitting down. He jumps up, I jump up, he starts running, and this other guy started running towards him. And then I was like, wait. And I stopped running because I was like, wait, do I know how to ask him in Hebrew? What does he need? So I was like, wait. And I not walked, but I like kind of went back to the table and got my friend's cell phone and my cell phone and then ran over with the cell phone in case we needed to call for help. Because everyone was speaking Hebrew, and they were also, because it was like an excited situation because the guy fell, they were speaking really fast, and I was like, I'm out. I can't help here because, I mean, but I asked my friend, I'm like, should I go get something? Should I call? And he's like, no, like it's okay. But it was just this, of course you go and help, And I tell people very honestly, in New York, about 2 months ago, give or take, I was literally accosted, assaulted on the streets. And not a single person, like 1 block from Grand Central Station, not one single person stopped. Not one single person tried to help. Not one single person tried to stop the person who assaulted me. But I guess I scared the bejesus out of him because I got in his face and screamed and yelled and said things that I can't.
Even if in a situation like that, when it looks like you got it, still in Israel there is no chance that
dude would have been tackled to the ground.
Yes,
there would have been. So it let's split the people into 4. So a quarter is got him down on the ground. A quarter is with May. Another quarter has run into a local store to get something. Right. And then the other quarter is like all on the phone calling for the police and like flagging the police down or whatever they need to do. Like they got that stuff on lock.
And we all say that as Israelis, that the feeling of being here and knowing that no matter what will happen to you on the street, like you'll get the help you need. Someone will help you. You won't be alone. And knowing that you're not alone, that is so much. It's something that I feel like nobody can take away from us.
No matter how hard you try. And a good example of that is the current situation that we're in. Look, October 7th, which we're going to get to one of the reasons that we have you here to be the voice and be the light, was just an unprecedented attack by monstrous drecks of shit from the depths of hell. And instead of the world having a conscience and a brain, we see what's going on, which unfortunately is the reason why we do have to talk about this. But things are, like we still are on. Okay, guys, there's 365 days in a year. Okay. We are over the 300 mark. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. We are over the 300 mark. And there are still over 115 innocent souls unaccounted for, including some friends of yours that we're going to be talking about. And yet, as a country, you see everywhere you go signs about the hostages, bring them home, let our people go, um, and reminders and yellow ribbons and everything. But people are moving forward because as Jews, we are commanded to continue to celebrate, continue to be the light, continue to push forward because we must, right? If we don't, who will, right? And so that is going on in Israel. But because of everything going on, and we have these additional threats from the spineless monsters that are living in Qatar and Iraq and Iran and Yemen, and that's fucking ha is what I'm saying to you right now. Yeah, and I learned this one right away too. But also, if one of us is talking and the other one wants to hold on a second, like one of us is going to do this. So again, my Italian American friends, this is not a fangula. No, that's not. It's like a second.
Like, wait a second.
And I have a very funny story about that for another time. But so I'm here and I am alone, and I'm here because Delta is a bunch of babies and canceled my flight. And also, you're still here. You should be in the US advocating and speaking.
Correct.
And talking to these groups that have been waiting and arranged for you to come for some time. But both of us are still here because both of us were booked on American-owned airlines, United, Delta. But at least United, like you said, was forthcoming and just canceled through the month. Whereas Delta is like, meh, 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 and talking all sorts of smack. I see you, Delta. I have been rebooked on LL. No thanks to Delta, because my parents have been losing their mind. And even though I am an adult and a mother myself, my parents are losing their minds and would like me home. But I did say something. Look, this is where I want to be. This is where I am moving in 1 year, and I am not running. I am not scared, and no one else here is scared. Though I do hear that the shelter in the hotel I'm staying at is lovely and very nice. And I feel like we were talking about this before, and I'm like, where else in the world do you utter things like, oh, well, I hear the shelter in the hotel is really nice. Like, or I was walking with my friend Elite, who is putting together a book of like faces and voices for Israel 710, and she's going to make this amazing coffee table book out of it and print it at the Kibbutz Be'eri printing press.
Amazing, love that.
I love them. By the way, they were back up and running on October 8th.
So fast, so
fast. That's the fucking Hamas. And I have to tell, like, the people I met down there are amazing, like beyond strong people. But Elite and I were walking with her dog. Hi, Macy. Hi, Elite. And she's like, yeah, I had to start thinking like, okay, along the route, where are the shelters?
Right.
And I was like, where are the what? And she's like, the bomb shelters, where you have to run when the alarm goes off. And I thought to myself, like, how do I really express that to people? How do I share that with people? And I don't know that you, who grew up here most of your life, with the exception of when your father was stationed overseas as a diplomat, you were in the diaspora. I don't know. How do you explain that to people? Like,
I feel like it's something that you can't really explain until you experience it, until you feel it for yourself. The feeling of the fact that, I take my showers so fast these days in case there's going to be a siren these days, because we're waiting for it in Tel Aviv. We're waiting for it to happen, right? So it's that. But it's also the fact that I grew up, I'm 25, I grew up with 20 years. Sirens and missiles and rockets, to a point where my age group, we're not afraid of it anymore. We're so used to it. It has become normalized that we're not afraid of it anymore, to a point where some people wouldn't even go in the bomb shelter in the Gaza envelope.
I don't recommend that.
No, I
don't recommend ignoring the alarms. But it's also funny things that people have asked me, because even though I'm here often and I do plan to make my life here and I'm not afraid and I've not altered what I'm doing, I can't say that I have experienced. I mean, I've been like talking to someone in Israel when the siren has gone off. And I almost feel like I feel even more helpless when like I'm not even there and I don't know what's going on. But someone like was talking to me about, okay, well, when you go to sleep, depending on like where you are, if you're in a building and it's not in your like apartment, if you have to go down to the part of like a shared space, like I will have to go down to a shared space in the hotel. make sure that, whatever you're rolling out of bed in is something that you can run down and not be, I don't know, in an awkward position.
And it's thinking about that. It's thinking what your pajamas are going to be like.
It's hot here, so like.
And it's thinking when you walk down the street, what happens if you're on the bus or you're driving or you want to go to the beach? You look around and it's become almost automatic to us now, but only after October 7th. Before that, I'll say the people in Tel Aviv, it wasn't something that we really looked around.
Because I feel like Tel Aviv very rarely experience the sirens. And I want to point something else out. So because of where you grew up in the Gaza envelope, which again, guys, 2005, Israel gave Gaza to the Palestinians because they promised that they would stop being monstrous assholes and murdering Israelis just for being Israeli. Oh, but no, they never had any intention. And by the way, please look it up. It's not Noah's opinion or my opinion. It's a freaking fact. Look at the satellite pictures from before 2005, before Israel gave part of the teeny little country that it is, smaller than Jersey, gave a piece away, okay, in the hopes of actual peace. It literally looked like any other city on the sea. I don't want to say Tel Aviv because Tel Aviv is like a more metropolitan, like maybe Ashdod or Herzliya or Ashkelon. By the way, Ashkelon is so beautiful, but they also have like massive. They're one of the closest
cities, just like Sderot. They get their fair share of rockets there.
Yeah, and the thing is, so one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is depending on where you are in Israel, the amount of time you have to react is drastically different. Holy shnikes. Like less than 30 seconds.
Mine is less than 15 seconds.
Can you guys react in 15 seconds or less?
Imagine in the middle of the night or getting out of the shower. You have 15 seconds to run to the shelter. Not always the shelter is in your apartment. Not always are you awake enough for it. And sometimes we will hear the sound of a rocket landing, a huge noise, before we hear the sound.
Right. Now, the Iron Dome, and kol hakavod to everyone who works in the Iron Dome, and clearly the powers of Hashem, because if you think about how many rockets, how many thousands of tens of thousands of rockets have been fired upon Israel daily since October 7th, the fact that like so few have landed, and then if they really believe that with all the technology, and I can't talk about it specifically because I'm not in the Iron Dome, I'm not cleared to do that. So I'm just saying, IDF, if you want to bring me into there to like talk about it, I would be very happy.
Yeah, which is very much related to what I'm doing in the army and in my Miluim and reserve service. So I know a lot about that.
Yeah, but it's fantastic because if they do believe that it'll land in I love when they tell me if we think it's going to land in an open space, and I was like, open space? How much open space is in Israel? But about if you do like go outside of the center of Israel, like I spent a lot of time in the north. It's okay, guys. I was in the north. I'm still here. That you do see like these farmlands, and you even said in your Moshav, like you guys are known for flowers and growing flowers. So if they felt like it was going to land in like the farmland, the open space, then they don't necessarily shoot it down, because when they shoot down the rocket, there's a few things that also we talk about this all the time, but it's something that bears repeating. So Israel fires the counter rocket, and it will intercept the rocket. Now, guys, it doesn't mean that it like dissipates into dust. No, it does not. What it does is it takes the explosive part, the worst part, out. But those rockets, the pieces, are like, now we're going to talk about feet because America is not on the metric system. Sorry. I mean, I don't know why, but we're not. So 6 feet, like the size of a tall man or woman, but 6 feet, okay, could be the piece of the rocket that falls. Even though the explosive wasn't exploded by the Iron Dome. Again, good job, because that's really all that's meant to be. And that's why you need to stay in the shelters, the safe rooms, the mahats, whatever.
10 minutes. 10 minutes. Oh my God, that is my job. That is what I do. So, you know the sirens?
Yeah, the first alert.
Right. I'm the girl who turns on the sirens.
The all clear.
Yeah. So
All clear, girl.
That's it. So we always say to people, yeah, the 10 minutes, we say it for a reason. There's a reason, and it's exactly because of that. In those 10 minutes, once you hear a siren, you will not hear another one, even if there's another threat, even if there's something ballistic still in the air. We are thinking, as the army, we're thinking, we told the civilian to stay there 10 minutes. We trust that they will stay there 10 minutes, and therefore we will not turn on another siren. We
also, it would probably be confusing if you keep turning on sirens.
Not only confusing, but also, technology-wise, it would go crazy.
Yeah.
Just imagine going over and over and over.
And please don't mistake the fact that we're like smiling and chuckling about this as that it's not a big deal.
No,
because it is a big deal.
Yeah,
it really is.
And
people have been injured or killed. And look, I mean, even the best laid plans can fail sometimes, and that is something that I think as someone who did not grow here, but is committed to Israel and will be here, and I am making that commitment every day. It's very hard to explain to people that, like the siren could go off, right? The siren could go off while we're doing this podcast.
Correct.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I want to think that I'd be calm. I really want to think so, but I don't know, right? But Israelis, like, you just know what to do. Do I think it's okay? No, it's not, because no one should have to live like that. Like, family members of mine, friends of mine who have younger children, and they talk about like that their kids have nightmares and the PTSD and this idea of trying to keep kids calm and entertained and all the little tricks of the trade of what to keep in the safe room, like if it's something in your home or in your apartment building and you can leave stuff there. One of my friends is like, oh yeah, so we have this one area where all the dog bowls are, and then we have another area where people put like some blankets and stuff in these containers. I'm like, but it's again, Israel should not have to live like this. Can you imagine America? Oh, let's pick a state. California.
Yeah.
California, Abahat's the fucking cha. Yeah, you guys are just gonna have to just deal with this all the time. This threat of they have earthquakes, which I did live in California and experienced earthquake, and oh my god, that was so scary. But okay, well, you just have to get used to it, and it's just gonna happen all the time. And like, but it's not like earthquakes are not so frequent that it's like every week.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what? Like, you might just lose a whole town, and okay, well, tough. No, it's not okay.
I feel like sometimes people are forgetting, they don't see it because a lot of the missiles and rockets are being intercepted by the Iron Dome. It doesn't seem like the damage is not big enough. It's not. So they don't see it. They don't know how many rockets are being fired at us daily, constantly in the north and the south too. And people don't know because some of them are being intercepted. A lot of them are. So there's that misconception as well.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like it's a broken record, because how often is the IDF going to be like, yeah, there was another like 300 missiles in the last week.
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, ulai, maybe. So whenever we have a Hebrew word, we just want to make sure we let them know in English. Yeah. Maybe, just maybe, if, I don't know, mainstream media in the West could, I don't know, actively report things correctly or the truth or, be real about it, then maybe people would know and understand. But, Abahat's the fucking cost, CNN. NBC, ABC, CBS, NPR.
Oh, the list goes on.
You know who is pretty good, though? My Fox News people.
Yeah?
Hi, Fox Morning Show and Friends, and specifically Todd Pyro. Yes. They are actively reporting what's going on. And so at least there's one source. But, Ani lo mevina. I don't understand. Like, it's not 10 years ago. It's not 20 years ago. This crazy thing that's a phone. Like, I could ask, I don't even want to say her name, but of course she won't come on because I'll say her name, but she only comes on when I'm in the middle of a conversation. Or you could ask Google, or you could, this little thing, it tells you everything. So it's not like you can't find out what's going on, but for the love of God, stop getting your news on TikTok. TikTok is not a news source. Holy God.
That, I don't know how we're supposed to fight that. I don't know. I feel like it's
I don't know. It's your generation, I feel like. I'm like, no.
You're right.
Tell me, Noah, because I and of course, in the US they were threatening to shut TikTok down. So I really kind of tried to stay off of it and didn't, but because you can't fix stupid and you can't reason with crazy. So unfortunately, I feel like that's TikTok in a nutshell. No offense, China, but I mean, they're probably listening to me. What's up? And also, I have enough issues with getting friends of mine or getting the threat of being shadow blocked or silenced for reporting the truth. Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, too many people have a hard time hearing the truth.
Listen, my son used to tell me something when he was like 2-3 years old. Mommy, that's a true fact. And I was like, honey, if it's a fact, it's true. Yeah, mommy, it's a true fact.
Yeah.
Like maybe my 2-year-old son needs to explain it to them.
Yes.
Like a fact is a fact. It's not an opinion. Yeah. A fact is true. It just is. So I don't know. I mean, my son is no longer 2, and he knows that a fact is true. And he'll probably be very mad at me for saying this on a podcast. But Solomon is a very big part of why I do this, why I advocate, why I fight for Israel, why I reach out to people like you, why people like Rachel put us in touch, and why you are stopping your life right now to travel abroad to speak on behalf of Israel, of your friends, of your family, of your life, and of your country. And I know that we are going to put up a link to you're wearing a shirt, and I want to get into that and kind of the reason that the advocacy that you are doing, why you're doing it, because there have been quite a lot of people from Israel since October 7th. And I think, well, so many of you guys come and go to places overseas and really honestly, very bravely and selflessly speak about what happened on that day to you, to your loved ones, to your family, to your friends, to your colleagues. There's really no way to describe it. But one of the things that I always want people to remember is October 7th was when hell opened up and monstrous, evil beings who parade around as humans, the innocent Gazan civilians who were employed, some of the kibbutzim, the UNRWA workers, UN, you evil, nasty entity. Bahatzla fucking cha. UNRWA is Hamas. I wrote an article about why UNRWA. But seriously, fuck them. I don't swear a lot on this, but fuck them. And whatever, perpetrated those evil acts, and literally the world was black. No light on that day. But that day did not and will not define Israel. And sorry, Hamas, we're not going anywhere. So, or also Hezbollah, ISIS, Al Qaeda, all of them guys, the Houthis, they are terrorists. And by the way, US, the West is next. They just want to kill her and I off before they come to you. But they're coming. And by the way, they're already there. Just wait. Yeah. But that being said, there is a need. Because if you do not, and we can see why this is happening, because the US educational system has gone down the tubes. We don't even teach September 11th anymore in our public schools. Which
really?
Is, holy crap, scary. We don't really talk about the Holocaust. We don't talk about World War I. We don't talk about World War II. Yeah. We gloss over these things as if they don't actually exist. So when you don't understand history and acknowledge history, it will repeat itself.
Correct.
And it is repeating itself.
Yes.
And until we speak up and say, no, must speak, die. Yeah. And die in Hebrew is I found enough. not die. I always tell Israelis when they first come to the US and your kids are being really bad, don't yell
Don't
die
yell.
at them in like a public space because people are going to be like, excuse me, child services. It's not the same thing. It's like, enough.
Mhm.
So until we say that and start reminding people how we should treat one another and that, all lives matter and all of these things, like all human life matters, but also animal life matters. And I don't like it when people compare the terrorists to animals because I'm a dog mom also, and I have two very lovely, pure-hearted animals at home.
Correct.
So they're not animals; they're monsters.
No.
Monsters. But you are, is it a millennial? I don't know. Is it millennial? Are you Gen Y, Gen Z? I don't even know what these things are anymore. But like, as someone in their 20s, only because you already said your age, is just a number. That's what I tell myself. You have a different, experience than maybe someone who's in their 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, or someone who is like still in high school. Because in your 20s you have finished army for the most part, and you guys a lot of you are living your best life, traveling overseas or just really enjoying yourself before you either start university or a job or whatever it is. And the majority of people who were enjoying the Nova Peace Music Festival were 20s and 30s. I'm not saying that there weren't older people there. There were. There were probably also younger people. But I mean, this is like, this is the time in your life where you like really worked really hard and you're starting to, your life eases up a bit because like the army is not an easy time. You guys are like, and again, it's hard for Americans to understand as we don't have mandatory service. But thank you to those Americans who are watching who have chosen to serve your country because it is a choice. And I do think that that's something to be proud of. But you have a very specific connection. And I'd like you to share what part of this story that you choose to. Because more than anything, we honor people's privacy. Because that day does not define you or anyone here. It's what you choose to do with it. And you have made a choice to say, okay, I'm going to put certain things about my life on hold. Pause that. Because there are people that I care about that I can't reach. And I know how it felt from far away trying to reach my family, my friends in that immediate few days. But I mean, to be here and to know what was going on as opposed to not really knowing, what can you tell us kind of maybe if you want to take a step back first and tell us like kind of about that day, like where were you?
Actually, it wasn't in Israel on that day, on October 7th.
Okay.
Which I think that's crazy. I think that carries its own feelings of guilt.
Oh God, yeah. There's a lot of
I spoke about this with other Israelis who have been abroad during October 7th. The guilt that we feel for not being here, with our family and friends. And I always say I would have much rather be here in Israel to feel the fear and everything they felt through, rather than to be somewhere else and safe. I would not rather feel safe and be away.
That is like perfectly said. And I have goosebumps because it's not the same what's going on. It was not that day. But I said to my friends and my family who literally think I'm nuts, well, why didn't you try to get out? Hold on. I don't fly a plane. But I'm not running. And I want to be here. And I need to be here. And I do think not only the people who were overseas, but I mean, there are people that have shared their stories with me who maybe they were not where they normally would be because they were celebrating maybe a bachelor party, a birthday, some sort of simcha, something happy, or they were out doing something, so they weren't where they were, and the guilt that they feel like, oh, if I, and I hope that at some point you're able to release that because there's nothing would have changed, and we're not here to debate like what went wrong, how this could have happened. Now's not the time. Okay. The time now is to let our people go. Let the 115 innocent souls be returned to their friends and family, and like we really just annihilate the monsters once and for all. But so you were overseas. How hard was it for you to return home, like logistically?
Oh, impossible. All flights were canceled. And, you know, when I understood what's going on
Yeah.
very quickly, when I realized all my friends and family are in danger and afraid to death, which that's the messages I've been receiving from them, I understood I need to get to Israel right now. I need to get to Israel as soon as possible. And it was almost impossible to find a flight. The earliest I managed to get a flight to is Monday morning, which for me seemed like eternity. It seemed like forever.
I mean, it was 2 days, but I'm sure those 48 hours felt like weeks.
Yeah, and I think I carry even my own trauma. It sounds funny, but I think I even carry my own trauma from that day, not even being in Israel, but everything I experienced but from the last messages that my friends have sent me. So yeah, and I'll share that. Like I said, I grew up by the Gaza envelope, and I went to Shara Negev Regional Council High School. And that's where I met the twins, Ziv and Gali Berman, 26-year-old twins from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, which is, Kibbutz Kfar Aza is like the closest one to the border, to the fence. It is so close that you see Gaza from it. It is it's a step away from it.
It's very hard to explain. I wish like you could stand at the gate of Kfar Aza and take a picture, just like when I was at Be'eri. And I said to Yarden, I said, "What's that?" And he was like, "That's Gaza." And I was like, "Oh."
You don't understand how close it is until you stand there.
There's just a field between them, and so I don't know how to explain that to people. I mean, so I guess as far as I could best explain it, it's a few acres, guys, and that's it. Really, just a few acres. I mean, maybe it's 10 acres. I don't, it's not like I can go measure it. I'm not walking up to the border of Gaza. But, ironically, again, the people of Gaza were able to enter Israel on work permits, but Israelis have never been able since 2005 to enter Gaza. Yeah. Just something to chew on while Noah's talking. So because these are so many small moshavs and kibbutzes, like, by the way, where I live also, my town is so small, we don't have our own high school. We have a regional high school. So, and it's kind of cool because you're meeting people from like neighboring towns.
Exactly. That's why the community is so united. That's why everybody knows everybody around the kibbutzes and the moshavs there. Everybody knows everybody. They grew up
generations of people. Right. And, it's family, even though it's not family, even more so. And there's a deeper connection to those around you. Yes. So you met the twins because you guys were and they were in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, and you were in your Moshav, but again, all in this general area.
Yeah. And that was like 7 years ago that I was in high school. And I always say, you're laughing because it wasn't that long ago.
No, it really wasn't. And I'm just thinking back to like, okay, all right. I'm just gonna process that for a second.
And I always say, it's been 7 years since. And Ziv and I actually do have a picture of them because I feel like every time I need to explain, I need to show who I'm talking about. They don't look the same. They look very, very different. But in that one photo I have,
and if it's okay with their family, we can put that picture up with the podcast.
So Ziv is my best friend. And when I try to describe who he is to me, I call him my right arm. Oh. He's the closest person to me. He's the only person in this world who knows everything about me. All of my secrets, all of my past, all the dirty laundry.
He could write a book about Noah.
Yeah, I feel like
don't write the book.
He knows me better than I know myself.
Wow.
And I can't say that about anybody else in this world. And he's the person I go to for advice. And he's the person I go to when I'm upset. Because he's the only person who knows how to talk to me. And he knows what to say to me and what will put a smile on my face. And he's the person who I would go to if I'd be stuck in the middle of the night with my car on the other side of the country.
And because he would get in his car, or figure out
no matter
a way to
what
get
he
to
would
you.
be doing. And he's the person I would call if I needed financial help and I was in a crisis and I needed money.
He's your go-to soulmate, even if only on that friend family level. He's a piece of you, and you're a piece of him.
Yes.
And I can't imagine how this must be for you, because this piece of you said your right arm. I mean, you have not been able to make any of those calls in over 10 months.
Yeah, I try to, when I try to explain who he is to me, I say, he's my good morning and my good night text and my how was your day text. And I don't remember a life without him. I don't remember what it's like not having my anchor by my side, not having my person by my side.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's like to go through a life crisis and not have him by my side, let alone being the life crisis about him.
Yeah.
Never did I think that I would experience a life.
Why would you ever think you'd be happy with someone?
Exactly. And life can't go on for me, for their family, for their friends. Like you said, well, I'm not blood related, but I consider, he's family.
Yeah.
I consider him family. He considers me family.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I try to emphasize how much he means to me and what a big part he takes in my heart, it never really comes across because it's something that only me and him will ever really understand.
Yeah. And and I don't want to pry into his family's personal business, but I imagine you're in touch with his parents, if they're both still alive, and I know that there's someone who survived Nova, who his best friend is still missing. He's unaccounted for, and he spends a lot of time with the family. And, he talks about the family members of his best friend as his family, and his family as, it's sometimes I'm like, wait, whose house did he say he was at? Because I'm confused. Which mom, and I can't, as a mom, I can't fathom, nor do I even want to, what anguish. And they're twins, and that twin bond. I pray that they're clinging to that bond to help each other, at this time.
Yeah, and they're not only just twins and siblings, they really are best friends of one another. They say that about each other. They have never been apart in their lives. They've always been together. They do everything together.
Wow.
They have the same hobbies. They work together in the same company ever since they were 18. They've never been apart.
Wow.
They really are friends. I've never seen siblings that are actually best friends of one another. It is so special. That's what makes them so special. That's what makes them who they are.
Wow. I mean, it's I don't know. There's no words, and I don't know if it helps or it hurts when you see the signs of hostages. You might just by chance walk past a picture of them or someone else, and because I do think that's really important for people to understand that is everywhere. Israel moving forward does not mean that they have forgotten. None of those souls have been forgotten. And, I think outside of Israel, I look, I can't change that this is how it is, but there are certain hostages that are heard about more.
Yeah.
I think partially, like, if when people are talking about the babies and the children, because you just can't, not that you can imagine for any second that this would have happened, and the depths and the depravity that was shown by these monsters. And the reason they didn't take and kill more Israelis is because they were so evil, and methodical, and depraved.
Yeah.
And they didn't just rape and murder. They dismembered. They tortured. They made sure that every ounce of that day was a suffering second. And like, we see the pictures of like the baby or the babies or the young children, and you think like how much babies change in like a month, a week, and the someone could take a baby or harm a baby. I mean, they always say that, there's a special place in hell for people like that. And, even amongst, bad people, drug dealers who murder, like, don't be someone who hurts kids in jail, because you will suffer. And as you should, because, you're just evil and wasting air. But I don't, I can't imagine it. And their community, because I talk about Be'eri, I was not able yet to go to Kfar Aza, but I extend this to any of the survivors. Like, I am happy to come and talk to you in person or video and take whatever you want to say and either record it and give it to you. Like, it's not about the podcast, guys. It's like, this is a vehicle. If you choose to use it, then I'm here for you. If you just need to get your story out, because I do think, I think it's really important that you're going and speaking. But what I want people to understand is, and you're just gonna have to take the nice things I'm saying, and I'm sure it's gonna make you a little uncomfortable, but I know every time you are gonna get up in front of a group, or you come to talk to me, or you share your feelings, it takes a piece of you every time. And whether you are someone who is the family member or friend of someone who was murdered or kidnapped or survived unspeakable things, you speaking is not easy. And that's why there are people like me out there who are just willing to record that. And so you don't have to keep repeating, because every time you talk about it, I know it takes a piece of you. And I want to say, like, quote, and I have so much respect for you. If I knew how to say that part in Hebrew, I would. Because you do need to keep going. But I'm imploring all of you who are watching and listening, like, reach out to Noah, reach out to me, reach out to some of the other people that have been brave enough to come on and say, how can I really help you? How can I really support you? And guys, if you are in the United States, it's super easy to demand of your representatives and senators that they take action. You literally just click a button on their website that says email me, and email them and demand that they find their brains and their hearts and be more like Elise Stefanik or Brian Mast, who are vocally, actively speaking up. Because this should not matter, but it's so interesting to me that, like, in America, you hear about the American hostages. By the way, Joe Biden, I would speak to you, but you wouldn't know I was speaking to you, so I'm not going to waste my breath. But the White House and all of the American diplomats, shame on all of you. Seriously. Because you have done nothing. Nothing. And when 9/11 happened, Israel was one of the first countries to show up and offer search teams and support and whatever they needed. And it's like, I don't like telling people I'm American, because I'm disgusted by our leadership. But I am very grateful that you will come, because this is not about Jews. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is about evil and humanity. Evil monsters, humanity. What happened on that day was pure evil. There's no justification for any of that. And until we come together as a world to realize it, like, I don't even know how to step forward. But the first thing that needs to happen is everyone needs to wake the F up and stop saying, we demand for a ceasefire. We demand for a hostage swap. Innocent civilians were kidnapped. If Israel has, I don't want to say people, if they have terrorists in jail for committing terrorist activities, swapping them is not a freaking reality. So shut your mouths. Shut your mouths. A ceasefire? Oh, I don't know. Maybe Hamas shouldn't have started the fight. They're just pissed because they started a fight that they're not going to win. return the hostages. You want us to stop? Return the hostages. Like, okay, that's it. It's very simple.
Yeah, it is.
Why were your friends taken? Because they exist? I'm sorry, that's
And
not.
it doesn't, I always say, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Israeli or
No.
Jewish, if you vote left wing, right wing, where you're from. It's the fact that they were here on this land.
There were
There
Thai
were
workers.
Muslims, there were Druze,
Yes.
Thai people from Nepal. It doesn't matter who you are.
Mhm.
It's just because they were here on this land.
Mhm.
And that is
Yeah,
it.
it's not about existing in peace. And the thing is, there was recently a very large attack in northern Israel, and it was a Druze village. And I had Mansour Ashkar, he's Druze, on the podcast. He's a wonderful advocate for Israel. And they literally attacked children. And I was like, oh, did someone like it? So what? It would have been okay if they were Jewish children, but still, where's the outrage from the world? Like, kids were playing football, soccer. I don't know. I don't want to upset anyone. Soccer, football. I try to call it football though. I'm really trying. And they were attacked. Why? Just because they exist? I mean, this is what we're talking about, and I don't know how to explain it. And I mean, is there? Oh, so speaking of, your friend specifically, I know you're wearing a shirt, and we're gonna put pictures of the front and the back of the shirt, so you don't have to like go like, oh, and turn around and everything. But what I understand is that we will put a link up so that people can get the shirts, because the shirts, like proceeds from the shirts are going to help
their families. Yeah, the families who need the help.
Yeah,
and I'll say that ever since October 7th, ever since my right arm was taken away from me, which, by the way, I spoke with Ziv that morning, and I was one of the last people that he spoke with. And to this day, I go back and read the messages. And I think something that's very hard for me is how many times he expressed his fear to me. How many times he's told me how scared and afraid and shaking he is, and how I was far away, and the best that I could do was say, I'm here, I'm with you,
yeah.
just a little bit longer, just hang in there a little bit longer. My friends always say that, no, a good thing you weren't in Israel, because if you would have been in Israel, you would have driven to Gaza. Which is 100% what I would have done as soon as I got a message from him that he hears Arabic outside his apartment. That is what I would have done.
And there are many people that tried and were like held back by the idea. And some of whom I've spoken to, and they're like, no, but I have to. And I think that goes back. That's exactly when like someone falls or they have a flat tire. Of course I stop. I have to.
Yeah.
And that it's running towards danger, not running from it.
Exactly.
And
it's when I got a flight to Israel, it was, of course, I'm going into the war zone, and I drove down to the south. I went down to my family, and I had a plan before getting the flight. I said, I'm driving to the south. I'm going to see that my parents are okay, because the rocket has hit our home. I'm going to see that they're fine and they're alive. And then I'm going to drive to Gaza to rescue Ziv and Gadi. And in my head, that plan is completely realistic. Yeah. And only when I got here, and my mom stopped me and she said, you can't go to Gaza. You can't drive.
I love you, Noah, but
but be realistic. And only then I understood that I can't go in with my bare hands and rescue them out of there. But that desire, that like, of course I'm driving, I'm going there. That was like the initial, that's your instinct. That's what your body tells you to do. It's something that's hard to explain to people.
It is. And I mean, I've heard so many individual testimonies about people who got in their cars initially with no gun, no nothing, and just drove to Nova, tried to get into the kibbutzim, and tried to do whatever it was, or and the thing is, like, what I really need for people to understand is, like, your friend's texting you and he's like, I'm scared, I hear this, and it's not like, oh, not to dismiss, oh, just like a small little attack. Oh, like they've come to steal things from our village. No. They stayed there, and some of it was hours and some of it was days. And look, kibbutzim, moshavs, all of these places, they have, fences and gates, but when you take a bulldozer or like construction equipment and you knock it over and you've hunkered down because you disgusting pieces of shit monsters had maps, detailed maps, because many of you were putting on a human face for years and working for these kibbutzim. And you had detailed information down to how many people were in a house, if they had dogs, what jobs they did, who would be home, who was observing Shabbat. And they also not only picked Shabbat, but a holiday where people would have their phones off if they were religious and not be tuned into technology and not be able to share that. And maybe perhaps like they were out and left their phone at home if they went to synagogue, because you wouldn't carry this with you if you're Shomer Shabbos, because you're not going to be on it. So why would you have it with you? And it was so methodically evil. And I hope that like in those moments, knowing that he was reaching out to you gave him some strength. And there are so many stories. And have you been able to go to Kfar Aza like since?
I haven't, because I felt like I couldn't see how the fence is right there. He's behind this fence. He's there. And I can't just go in and get him. And trust me, if I could go into Gaza and get him, I would have done that.
By the way, she'd kill so many of those little monsters that had done this.
And I would say, like, if it were me on a poster, which could have been any one of us, Ziv would go into Gaza and he would have gotten me out of there. And that is why on October 7th, I stopped my life. That is why before October 7th, I was a college student and I was working for Moshav with Jews from the diaspora. And I was very happy and I had my hopes and dreams. And I stopped everything. I left all of my life behind. I stopped my job. I left college. I left everything I had in my life out of the realization that now I need to fight for my loved ones to get back home, and that nothing else matters. Job doesn't matter. School doesn't matter. Nothing else matters more than this. And I need to scream their voices that we can't hear here. And that if I won't do it, if the family and friends won't do it, who's going to do it for us? Who's going to scream their scream? Who's going to fight for them? And I owe them that. And it's not only my duty as their friend, it's my duty as a Jew, as an Israeli, but also as a human being.
Yeah, and I think especially with your upcoming visit to the States, and as a college student, and guys, remember, because you go right from high school to the Army, you're not going into college at 18.
Yeah.
You're going into college in your 20s. And seeing what's going on college campuses in the United States they're calling for intifada. They're calling for repeats of October 7th. And, as a lot of ZionistAF people know, my son and I made a decision as a family that we were not even going to apply to any U.S. colleges or universities, not to capitulate to the moronic, brainless sacks of shit who are getting paid by George Soros and all those other evil little entities. Which, by the way, like, if you're going to say like that I should die and all these things, could you, I don't know, just learn to spell correctly? Like, if you're going to threaten me, could you at least spell? Like, seriously, like, you're at Cornell. It's supposed to be an Ivy League school and you can't spell. I don't know, Cornell, like, how thirsty are you? We've decided not to apply because I'm making a statement to the college. Where I went to school, I won't even utter their name anymore because I'm disgusted by what the college I attended has done. And if it were the gay and lesbian community, that nobody would say that. Or like at MIT, at one point they were saying, well, Jewish students, you just need to calm down. You can just go in the back. Excuse me? Okay, please tell the Black Student Union, I'm sorry, all Black people should go in the back of the building. Oh, wait, America did do that. There was segregation. That wasn't okay. Why is this okay? Like, I don't even understand. So, because it's like, and there are people that say that, like, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just like, well, I mean, those are also the stupid people that say, like, the Holocaust didn't happen, or 9/11 didn't happen.
Yeah. And it's the hardest thing is when people tell me, they're not held hostage. There aren't 150.
They're on vacay in Gaza. What the hell is wrong with you? Do they
and they're treating them well. They came back smiling. The hostages have returned. They're treating them well.
It's like a spa.
They were smiling.
Totally.
They were waving.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody put a gun to their head. No. They weren't tortured there. No.
Or the women who have been brave enough to speak up about the rapes have been told that it's justified or accused of making it up. Or, I mean, I don't even understand.
It's the fact that they're, with the Holocaust, there sometimes with the stories, there weren't evidence. There wasn't any evidence. We have evidence, and yet even with evidence, with footage that Hamas themselves have posted, on Facebook, on social media, on Telegram, or wherever it is, with their footage that we saw,
also used victim cell phones to record what they were doing, sent it to their families, everyone in their contact list. I mean, methodical they were, but smart? No.
But the thing is, I thought that,
you would think that obviously that would help.
We have
people
proof.
Understand.
This time we have proof. It's there. It's shown. It's not us. We didn't make anything up. They did it themselves to them. And even with that, the world doesn't believe.
How does that feel to you?
I feel like I lost my faith in humanity. That is what I feel. I feel like, if I thought that one day my future children will be able to grow up as Jews in this world and, won't be chased after, or people won't want them dead. No, I will have to teach my children that because they're Jewish, people are going to want them dead. Probably forever. And that's not something that I thought I would have to teach to my future children. That's not something that I thought would carry on in generations. I think I really lost some faith in humanity on that day, and I don't know if that's something that will ever be restored.
I mean, I wish I had answers for you as a mom, as a Jew, as a Zionist, as a human being. I have to look at you now and say I don't have the answers. But I can say that what I do have is, if nothing more, fucking stubborn ass determination. And in that sense, I will never stop sharing stories, and I will never stop screaming and yelling. And I hope you never stop speaking up. And I plead with people, even if it's something small, like Eitan said on our podcast, say I am a Jew, or tell people I am an ally to Jews, and speak up. I have this wonderful, amazing person in my life now. She's called Angry Mom, and we don't talk about who she is, even though I know who she is. She's the woman at Northwestern that took down all those signs, and she said all it takes is an angry mom who loves her Jewish friends. And she ripped down all those Hamas signs. And a massive vote to her. And she does have to stay anonymous because of the threats that she has received. But she is not Jewish. And she simply said, this is wrong, and I'm not going to stay silent. And we have to speak up and not stop. And I implore anyone who is like, you know what, I've been looking for the way to help, is that I want them to understand this and maybe dedicate yourself to this one thing. Communities like Farber, Be'eri, the hotel, the Brown hotels, like many other hotels in this country, are still housing families who cannot go home. It is not safe. They may not have a physical home to go back to. I recently, I'm not going to even say if it's a man or a woman because I respect their privacy. I was speaking to them this morning. They have been in this hotel for 10 months. And I'm sure that someone's like, oh, well, you're in a hotel. Like, that must be like amazing. No, it's not. You have no kitchen. All of the family heirlooms, the pictures, I mean, listen, you can go to the nicest vacation, but nothing feels as good as your own bed.
Yeah.
Right?
You know,
Because
something
that sense.
something I heard the mothers say is they say, I miss the smell of my laundry. My laundry.
And it's these little, even I miss doing my laundry.
Yeah.
My own laundry. Because there's not washing machines that you can just go and use in the hotel. And I don't know like what the agreement is, or maybe the hotel does like agree to help them or take it from them once. I don't know. I mean, that's not the point of this, but like these little things that you, or I miss being able to have people over to my house to have a barbecue. I'm sorry, this is a lovely hotel.
Yeah.
But there's not like balconies where you can have a barbecue or a common space where you can just go have a barbecue. And the thing is, there's nothing that's really yours, you know? So I plead with people, like, understand that, reach out, Noah is a resource. I am a resource. If we don't have the answer, we will say, Shnia, hold on. We'll see what we can do. We'll get it for you, or we'll find someone to put you in touch with who has that answer. Like, how do you help? One of the things I said to someone in Bay Area is like, where are you starting? Yeah, where do we start? I don't even know. I mean, communities of 1,200, 1,500, 1,000 have lost over 100, and you start to statistically do the percentages, and it's devastating. And how do you help? You help by, first and foremost, standing up and saying this is not okay. You help by doing any little thing you can to help support the Israeli economy or a family. There are so many nonprofit organizations, including one of the ones that's bringing you, that will say, hey, we will make sure that that family has whatever it is. I mean, think about it. Having to all of a sudden leave, I don't know, maybe you had a favorite outfit. Maybe your family animal unfortunately like ran off, or what, who knows. All the little things that give you peace in this world just ripped from you. And the world that you knew stopped existing. And so, like, really, please take 5 minutes of your day, because 5 minutes is an eternity. I mean, 30 seconds is an eternity, but also almost no time if you're running into a shelter. Remember, rockets have never stopped being fired upon Israel. They've never stopped, even though apparently there's no food, no water, no fuel. Weird. The rockets are just being launched, and it's like there's no fuel. Okay. And say, I commit to, I promise to, I dedicate myself to doing one thing or two things. And I promise you, whether it's like, hey, let me reach out to their family's favorite restaurant and have a meal sent to them wherever they are. Because I don't know where they are, and we don't have to say where they are for their own privacy or whatever. Do that. Reach out and say, I want to send something to their hotel room if they're in a hotel. I mean, I make a point of trying to stay places in Israel, especially since October 7th. People are like, well, why don't you take an Airbnb? Well, I don't know why, but Airbnbs in Tel Aviv are ridiculously expensive and more expensive than hotels.
Sure.
And then could I sublet? Yeah, maybe. But I also have my son with me for part-time. So like, let's be practical. But when we went to the Dead Sea, because I wanted him to really have that experience, even though he was here last year, I picked a hotel specifically that was housing families because I wanted to make sure that I was supporting that business because, and you might think, oh, well, like, what's the problem? The government's paying for the rooms. Okay, well, the government might be paying for the rooms, but they're also paying they're like, this is the rate. Like, that's it. And there are, no matter where you go in the world, there are certain times of the year where rates go up because everyone wants to go somewhere. And so we have to remember that the evil act, while it was like perpetrated on this day has had a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And you can commit to making a difference by doing one small thing. And if you're like, hey, that's a great idea, because you know what? I am going to come to Israel and I don't care what's going on. Obviously, I'm not flying on Delta or United, but come fly LL. And by the way, LL, Noah is right here. Feel free to reach out and make sure that she can get to the States to spread her message. Come to Israel. Or say, hey, Noah, what's your favorite store? I want to call them and buy something and send it to one of the families. Or whatever that case may be. I'm always talking about little stores. Again, you guys are a very tech-savvy country, but so many of your places don't have websites because they've never needed to, because it's an in-person thing. It's a tourism-based thing. Yeah. And I've talked about friends of mine, in Jerusalem that have stores, like the best places to get all your Judaica gifts and all that stuff. Or, jewelry stores where, like, I have my name necklace from. Or my buddy Svika, who's at Shuka Carmel, where he recently gave me this when I was here this trip. And, just making that gesture to support someone.
So many local businesses from the north and from the south that, had to shut down, or either they can't,
or even lost everything they had because it was hit by a missile or burned to the ground by the terrorist monsters, or just completely decimated. And I do know people that lost their homes and their businesses.
Or people who went, have businesses and went to Miluim to reserve duty to protect this country,